Hello and welcome back to Mirror Interpretation Todorova. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ioana and I'm an interpreter and a polyglot. And today I'd like to talk about interpreter evaluation. And I want to talk about the interpreter evaluation form, guys. This is when your clients screen you. There are different type of screening during your interpreting. Different companies have different approaches. Some of them screen you for pre-session, post-session, and intervention protocol. Some of that screen you for different things. Some of that have a bilingual quality reviewer who is going to be a person who speaks both languages, your language and your target language, and is going to check for proficiency. I'm going to go through all the things that you eventually can be evaluated for, which is going to happen in both languages. And the first part is introduction. Let's start with an introduction to the provider. If you give your name, if you give the language that you're going to provide, complete introduction, explain how to manage flow of communication, direct provider to speak directly to individual. So this is the full set of pre-session in English checks. Some companies does not want you to give much instruction, especially if it's OPI. For example, I say, hello, my name is Ioana. I will be a Russian interpreter. My ID is blah, 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 blah. Please go ahead. If you interpret in person, though, it's kind of must. And I always do it in court, in business. In business, I do simultaneous, so I don't do it much in business, but there is a different things that I do in business. But I'm going to say in court and in the hospital, I use this gesture, and this means to stop for me. I do not take notes in the in-person interpretation because it's kind of too fast to take notes. And often when you're present there, you tend to interpret a little bit faster than when it's over the phone. The providers or the people also expect you to do this slightly faster. Do you like my hairstyle? I'm going to go to a retro event tonight, and so my hair have to stay like that the whole day. So I hope you enjoy this hairstyle, year 40s. Said that, let's go back to the interpreting evaluation. So if it's medical, this is the gesture that is used, and they know that they have to stop. Or I use the words please pause or hold on please for the interpreter. Every time the interpreter speaking, please hold for me. If they speak for a long time, you're not going to be precise. And in medical, it's very important that you're precise. So this is the gesture to ask them to stop. Usually, they are pretty good with that. I have to tell you, even in the emergency room, I think most of the people that work in the emergency room, they are aware that being calm and taking it a small piece at a time, it makes everything really efficient. I see the same thing in the 911 calls or emergency line. Same things. Pausing one step at a time. They're calling you. It's like, oh my goodness, пожар, пожар, пожалуйста. And they're like, okay, ma'am, hold on. Give me your name and your address. And so while you're on the emergency call, the fire departments go to the person home. So the first information that you get is very important to be precise, but it's also very important that you're calm and quiet and collected. That's why if in person, know this gesture. If it's on the phone, calm and collected is the best thing. In business interpretation, I would say almost never use gesture to ask them to stop. But before I start interpreting the session, I have a briefing with the client, with the buyer. I usually was working for the trade fair, and the buyer would brief me about their goals of the whole 5 days of trade meetings. So I would know what the buyer wants, and I would note what kind of exhibition or product they're looking for. And I would be able to be a little bit more in the role of advocacy when it's business to business trades, international market. So the role of business interpreter is a little bit more different than medical and legal because you're slightly more negotiable power given by the buyer or the company that you're gonna represent. But with the companies that I used to represent in Europe, they would train me. For example, I was representing Sri Lanka one time, and that was very beautiful experience. I was working for their stands where they were offering international products as tea and traveling. So I really enjoyed this process for the 5 days of a trade fair because I was able to drink the tea and to offer it. But also it's because I knew quite well what was the goal of the Sri Lankan tourism organization located with the government and how they wanted to be represented. So for me to interpret or to present the company was not a problem. But we're talking about USA, and I'm gonna go back to medical or legal. Okay, so the first 5 things was your name, your ID, complete introduction, how are you gonna manage the flow of the session. If it's telephonic, I would say use short phrases. Please pause shortly for the interpreter to interpret. If you want me to be accurate, short sessions. And please speak to the patient directly. So let's say that there is a provider. It normally happens with Latino nurses that are not very first time user of interpreters. Okay, interpreter, tell him that I will ask him to go, to tell her to go. And they would have a hard time when I ask, please address the person directly. If I repeat what you say, would not make sense. I had a session a few weeks ago. The lady got angry at me and tell me to shut up and tell me, are you done, interpreter? Now you do what I tell you. And this was the time that I actually withdraw from the session because your certification have value. And if you do not follow the rules and somebody monitor you, you're gonna lose your job. So follow the rules. Introduction to the target language. Name, confidentiality. Everything you say will be kept confidential. Complete introduction, manage the flow of the session. Please speak shortly. Please do not speak with me. Please do not interrupt me. Please do not speak with the provider. Please, when the English speaking lady is speaking, do not speak. I interpreter write everything down. If you speak with her, I cannot take notes. There is different things that sometimes even during the session I have to do because people tend to shout together. Prompts individuals to ask question, redirect, speak directly to provider. This is rarely, if they ask me, interpreter, what do you think, is that good for me? I ask directly the provider. Interpreter, do you think this is good for me? And the provider say, okay, interpreter, what are you gonna say? And this is when you say, well, in my role is here to interpret. Doctor, please, would you like to address the question? Sometimes the people get angry. No, I ask you, interpreter, where are you from? You better answer me. I ask provider, may the interpreter ask where I'm from or share where I'm from? She's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Just the protocols, remember that. The first part of this introduction is not only introduction, but is the whole monitoring during the session, and company that will monitor your entire session, they will see how you handle if a question is directed to you. You should interpret it to the doctor, and only if the doctor or the nurse say, yes, go ahead, interpreter, please provide your origins, I will provide them. Okay, number 2, interpretation. If the first person is used, you have to use first person with the provider and with the patient, with the both parties in medical and legal. Remember the role of the interpreter. Communication flow, were you successful to manage? Was the interpreter successful to manage the communication flow? Once again, I repeat. If they speak together, if they interrupt each other, if they don't let you read the message, sometimes provider interrupts me believing that they understand. And I say this, excuse me, ma'am, this is the interpreter speaking. Would you like me to read the message? Or you don't want to know about it? Because if they don't let you to interpret, you're already violating your best practices and best protocols that state that I will interpret everything you say and keep it confidential. If you don't interpret everything it says and keep it confidential, you're already violating your role boundaries and you can be in trouble for that. So if they tell me no, don't read it, this is when I can withdraw. I'm sorry, ma'am. I have to read it for the protocol. Please give me a second. If they already doesn't want to know about it, they still let you read it because they understand your role. If clarification was necessary, was the interpreter clarifying? So this is the interpreter. I need repetition. Can you please clarify the number after 5? Can you repeat for the interpreter the last 2 numbers of the social? Whatever is it, I said it in the 2 languages usually. Sometimes when I start to take the numbers and the Russian people are like, oh my goodness, wait a second, now it's 5-3. Oh my goodness, I forget. And then you have this really pushy people. They're interpreter, say it. What are you doing, interpreter? I ask her, please calm down, ma'am. I'm writing down. I will be right back at you. I promise you. I'm writing the number down. A lot of times people are a little bit, OCD, mental health issues, you don't know what's happening on the other side. Managing this flow is very important. Did the interpreter fail to clarify? Let's say I don't understand this word. For example, today I learned a new word, but I forgot it. I forgot it's a new condition, it's an eye condition that I'm gonna give it to you in one of the shorts. I didn't know it, and I asked provider, can you please spell it for me? I like to learn this word to know what exactly it means. It is a special condition of the eyes where your retina move left, right with the switch of light. It have a special name. It's not astigmatism, it's something else. So, did interpreter summarize? You, in medical, never summarize. Legal, never summarize. Never. This is mistake. You should not do it. The only form that summarization is excused is when there is a group of people speaking and you're not able to catch all of their gossips whatsoever. But usually summarization is used in business. Remember. Completeness and accuracy. Was the interpretation accurate? This is tested when you have bilingual quality representative on the back of the call, and usually you can hear it, and this usually make the call a little bit more hard to be heard and so on. Was everything interpreted? Comments, for example, oh, what shall I do? Interpreter, I don't know what to do. If they leave you alone in the room, I say, excuse me, ma'am, this is just the interpreter. I am muted. We will ask her when she come back. Apology. I just make sure that whatever is said, even if there is nobody on the line, it's just me and the Russian lady, I would say it in English. Even if we lose the provider, I would say it in English just to cover myself for my safety. What else you're monitored for? I know this is quite a lot. Part number 1. So we have introduction, interpretation, completeness and accuracy, qualities of interpreter, number 4. That's the 4 main session. Did the interpreter confident while interpreting? Was the interpreter audible when interpreting? Audible means, was it clearly understood in the both languages? I do have accent in Russian, in all of the languages I speak. So sometimes they said to me, we don't like your accent. I remember a few days ago, they were accusing me of speaking Ukrainian. Unfortunately, I do not speak Ukrainian. And I was like, I'm apologizing, guys. I do not speak Ukrainian. I speak Russian. Do you like to have Ukrainian interpreter? I'm always happy to offer another interpreter. And if they say no, it's because you have accent. I'm saying, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm apologizing. A lot of people would be disturbed and take your accent for ignorance sometimes. But a lot of times, if they see that you're attentive and you're going to make the effort, they are willing to accept you with accent. Did interpreter speak clearly while interpreting? I could say that when I'm extremely tired sometimes, I am not so clear. This is true. Did the interpreter speak too fast? This is bad. Too fast in medical is not good. Just have in mind. Did the interpreter speak too slow? Another bet. Why? I want to know if the doctor is going to give me medicines. I don't do the same as older people when I interpret. Yes, sometimes I do so if it's extremely painful, and normally I would say the person is stuttering or mumbling because they're in pain, and I will interpret in a proper language the words that I say, and I would say the interpreter adding, especially people with stroke, they will have difficulty to speak. And I, as an interpreter, when I do logopedical sessions, I would clarify if they're stuttering, if they have any difficulties connecting properly, because this is part of their medical condition. Otherwise, I would not do that, just guys. Did the interpreter leave the room with the provider? So, if you're in telephonic interpretation, you cannot chat with the Russian member. And I always say, apology, I cannot talk with you. My profession doesn't allow me, but I will lovely interpret for you. They understand. Did the interpreter take action to avoid personal conversation with the individual? You can have this experience during telephone, during video, during everything, during in person, and so on. Did interpreter clarify when in doubt? Of course, for sure. This is during the whole thing. Comments. What the interpreter need to improve? Introduction, transparency, accuracy, terminology, completeness, fluency, self-confidence, managing the flow, flexibility. I will tell you that right now I'm working on my terminology. Number one, self-confidence. And flexibility and managing the flow. And you're gonna see a series of videos that I'm gonna create on how to politely respect others and how to set a boundary within your interpreting role. You need to set a boundary in order to follow best practice and best protocols, but this boundary have to start within you. Boundary with self-respect. You have to require self-respect in this field of work, because this is going to affect you mentally. And setting boundaries could be very challenging in our field. So I'm going to create a set of videos called communication, which I already started. The video number 1 you saw, it was about email communication, but I'm going to speak about setting boundaries in the role of your profession and requesting respect in a specific manner, and how I do it. And I'm developing myself yet in this field, and I like to share my knowledge with you guys. As you can understand, I'm so passionate about that. I'm so excited to share this with you. And that was how you are monitored. I can tell you that I am not always 100%. I am aware of that. And when I'm not, I know this. And if they get upset with me, I apologize and I ask for forgiveness. This happens especially if you have a challenging day, especially if you're in a specific terminology, a specific field. And I will share how I manage that. Said that, guys, if you like this video, if you like my hairstyle, if you like my lip color, or if you like me, or if you like the information that I share with you, you can press a thumbs up to promote me. It's free of charge. You can press a thumb down. You can write me a comment what kind of topics you do have challenge with at your interpreting fields, and I will love to share more hacks with you. If you're a Spanish English medical interpreter, you can purchase my training clicking on my platform on Thinkific. Si eres un intérprete español-inglés, puedes comprar en mi un nuevo training español-inglés. Es sistema cardiovascular en 2 idiomas, inglés en español. Está en bajo. José es la persona muy educada, muy concentrata, che ti possa dare il más della terminologia medica nel sistema cardiovascular e puedes también mirar tutto esto scritto su 2 foglie, inglés e español. Al final puedes obtener un training di memoria de terminologia médica español-inglés y un certificado de completación. Gracias. And also, guys, if you like to purchase my training, 1999, you can see my training Getting Ready for MBCMI site translation, where I'm going to talk about how to do this and how should be done. There is parts that we exercise, that I give you terminology in 2 languages, Russian, English. I believe that's everything for today. Thank you for being here, and you can always support me by subscribing. And for $7.99, you can receive videos for members only. I share where I apply. You can apply for jobs. You can grow with me. You can learn with me, and you can be part of my reality a little bit closer to me. Thank you.